Hi everyone, and welcome to the Book Refuge, and welcome to my March wrap up in the second part 2, where we have, as usual, quite a few books to talk about. So since this is the end of the month, let's talk about my stats overall. So as you can see on the screen here, I read 48 books this month, a few less than last month, right? I was traveling, even though I ended up reading a lot while I was traveling too, which was great, which was a total of 16,204 pages, which averages out to be about 523 pages per day. Wow. I impress myself sometimes, guys. I just do. I had a total of 20 5 stars, 6 4.5 stars, 14 4 stars, 2 3.5 stars, and 5 3 stars, and then 1 DNF. So that is the total. One of the things that's so fun about romances is, like, to me, romances are either a 3, a 4, or a 5. That's usually just how I map them out in my head. I don't usually have as much nuance for them. There are a few, but like looking over my stats, the things that I have more nitpicky about are usually things where there's other elements in them. That's just something I'm discovering about myself, because kind of in my head, romance, I just know what it feels like. Let's start with what my DNF was, and we'll go from there. So I ended up having to DNF Steelheart. I've been trying to get through this book for, I think, the 2 months now, and I just wasn't feeling it. I love Brandon's writing. I just wasn't into this story. I didn't really care. It felt kind of reminiscent of Renegades for me. I know this came first, but I read Renegades first, and I really loved it, and I just wasn't caring about these characters. So I was like, don't got time for it. We DNF that baby. Next, I want to talk about, I read Well Met by Jenn. This, was on so many people's lists recently. I finally got around to it. It was really cute. It was just adorable. This book, if you don't know already, this is about Emily. I think she's 26 or 27, and she's been staying with her sister, who is much older than her. There's a pretty big age gap between them, but her sister was in a car accident, and she's needed help around the house, and Emily didn't have anything going on. So she ends up volunteering at this Renaissance festival because her niece wants to be a part of it, and she has to have a chaperone with her to be involved. So Emily does, and she butts heads with the man who runs it, whose name is, let me find his real name, because Simon. He goes by a different name when he is at the fair. And he is just so strict and rigid about how everything's supposed to go at the Renaissance fair. And Emily just doesn't understand it. And they just really butt heads, and things don't go super smoothly for them. So this becomes a hate to love, and it is a sexy hate to love. It wasn't quite a 5-star read for me, though, because just them getting off on the wrong foot was just kind of ridiculous how it started. It was fine once it was already there, because you're like, okay, well, now it doesn't matter how this happened because whatever. But it just wasn't as fun as it could have been to me. Also, there was a pretty fun build-up, and then the misunderstanding in this one just didn't make any sense, which is a weak spot for me. If there's going to be an understanding, the understanding has to work. Talking about one that had a great misunderstanding though, would be The Honeymooners by Christina Lauren. This is another romance that I needed to get to. I have had it for quite a while. This is one that my friend Murphy really liked, and she doesn't like romance a lot. But see, the things we like about romance are very different. So for me, this one, if you haven't heard about it, this is about Olive and Ethan and their siblings, respectively. So his brother and her sister, they get married, and at the wedding, everyone gets sick except for her and Ethan. Ethan, because he won't eat off of buffets, and Olive, I can't remember what her reason is, but she doesn't eat it either. And so they end up having to take their siblings' honeymoon because it's non-refundable, and it has to be the people who signed up for it. So Amy gives Olive her ID, and then Ethan takes his brother's spot, and they go on this honeymoon together. So they hate each other for reasons unknown, and the reasons that they hate each other are actually fascinating to me. So I won't spoil that. For me, this one just was like, the buildup was super, super sexy, and then I wasn't a huge fan of like how quickly there was issues going on. But I mean, after talking this over with Murphy, like I understand why, but I can't tell you that because it's a spoiler. But I ended up giving this 4 stars still. It was really fun. I'm glad that I did get around to reading it. And also there wasn't enough sexy time for me. That's one of my complaints about the newer Christina Lauren books, is they've really like come really far back from their sexy times, and I loved their books with sexy times in it, and I feel like in them trying to be more of a mass appeal that I don't get out of them what I used to. And so that's a critique for me, because I liked how they used to write, and I wish that they had taken the ways that they advanced their writing and kept that more sexy time. Oh, also a huge perk about this, they are from the Twin Cities in Minnesota, which is where a lot of my family lives. And so a bunch of places they were mentioning I've been to, and I never hear that mentioned about Minnesota. So it's really fun. Okay, let's start working down this list then. So this is going to be difficult to do this, but I ended up reading, I think, maybe like 15 Serena Bowen books this month. Let's count. I read 5, 11, 12, 13 books by Serena Bowen this month, and they all kind of blend. They're all kind of like one series that blends, except for a couple of them. So I'm kind of just going to talk about them that way. These were all either 4 or 5 stars for me. I love them a lot. So I started with the Ivy Years series, which I'll put up a picture of like the box set. And this series includes The Year We Fell Down, The Year We Hid Away, and The Understatement of the Year, The Shameless Hour, and The 15th Minute. So this is one series. It takes place at this school called Harkness, and most of the people we're dealing with, they are hockey players or hockey team adjacent, and we have some fun interactions with them. So the first one kicks off with a hockey team captain who he has been injured during the summer, and so he can't play right away. And then we meet this girl, Corey, who she has a spinal injury and may never get to play hockey again. She was supposed to be on the women's team at this college, and she had already like been accepted into this school, and now she can't play. And so both Hartley and Corey, they end up on the accessible floor, and they end up as hallmates across the hall from each other. So at the beginning of the book, Hartley has a girlfriend, but she's going to France to study abroad. And so they really just have this really cute friendship that starts, and they play this one like hockey video game together. And this isn't a cheating story. Nothing happens between them until after a breakup. And it was super cute. Then we lead into another person on the hockey team who he is having to be a parent to his little sister because his mother is a crack whore. There's no other way. She's a meth maker and dealer and all these things. And he has to take care of his little sister, and so she's been staying in his dorm room, and he's having to keep it very secret because he's very afraid. And then he meets this girl named Scarlett who's hiding secrets of her own and has tried to start fresh by coming to this place. And so they both have a lot of secrets, but they find so much solace in spending time together, and it's beautiful. Next, we have these 2 guys on the hockey team that they used to go to the same Christian school together when they were kids, and they were semi kind of sort of boyfriends, but then something horrible happened and one of them got really beat up, and so he ended up getting sent away to a different school, and the other kid hid it deep down, decided that he didn't like men, he was going to keep being with women because he was terrified of what people would think of him. And now that friend is going to the same school as him and is on the same hockey team, and he's terrified of his friend revealing that they used to be almost lovers. This was a painful one. This was not the same as him, but there definitely are shades of it. The big difference is I really think is just the deep level fear that this one kid has after going to this Christian school and after seeing, you know, his friend get sent away and being afraid of like being on the hockey team and being out. And it's just super intense. But I'll tell you what, this book was so good. And these characters that we meet, because all these books are by Serena, all these books I'm talking about, these characters are all in there and you get to see how they've grown and changed. And by the time I get to some books I'm about to mention, it's been almost 10 years, and seeing their life and how they've changed and grown is amazing. Then we have the Shameless Hour, and now this is about Bella, who is the team manager, and she has a one-night stand with this guy who's a virgin, who has had a crush on her for a while, who just gets broken up with on his birthday, and they have a one-night stand together, and there may or may not be something brewing between the two of these people, and then Bella gets humiliated by a frat house, and they're very cruel to her, and it's not sexual assault, but it's assault, what happens to her. And this guy helps her deal with it because he won't let her wallow in grief. He's like, either you're going to keep your life together and not fall apart, or I'm going to tell someone what happened to you so you get help. And I just love that about him. It's manipulative in some ways, but it's manipulative in the way of, I'm not going to let you fall. I am going to take care of you. And if you don't want me to take care of you, then you have to take care of yourself. And I really love it. I love this relationship so much. This is also an interracial couple, and it's really cute, and I love it so much. And then the fifth one in this series is called The 15th Minute. And now this is about kind of the opposite situation of what happened to Bella. So we have this character named DJ, and he's falsely accused of raping a girl. And I'm not going to tell you what really happened, but you know going into the book, you have this gut feeling going into the book, like you know this guy didn't do it. It's the what's going to be the excuse or what's going to be the reason. And the girl that he's falling in love with is a character we've already met. She's actually Bella's roommate from the last book, and she's actually a movie star, and she's kind of like a Disney Channel star. So she's 18 now, trying to go to college, but she has to hide away all the time because she's famous. And if she wants to go to school and live a normal life, she has to keep a low profile. And she meets this guy who has this thing hanging over his head. And really this book, it's so powerful and so beautiful because it's showing how colleges mess up in more than one way. Not only in the not believing the girl, but in not doing anything. Because in this case, in not having, in not pressing charges, and not doing anything, they keep both of these people, the accuser and the accused, in limbo. And there's no answer. And they're both just suffering, wallowing in it because there's no answer. And again, like I said, I won't tell you how this works out, but it's crazy. And it made so much sense, and also it was horrible. Like, the whole thing was horrible, but you know this kid didn't do it. But it's also painful to see because the girl that this happened to was his friend, the girl that's accusing him was his friend, and he's so confused and then questions how he has interactions with a girl who really wants to have interactions with him, and how fearful he is now that, should I trust this person with me? Are they going to blame me for something? Am I, I think consent is one of the sexiest things you read about. And that's only something that's new to me in the past couple of years because I have come to see authors writing consent in such a beautiful, powerful way. Nothing more than reading a story about BDSM will show you how powerful and sexy consent is. And that's just something that's changed in me. But I felt for DJ in every sexual encounter he has from now on is tainted by this in, am I doing something that's acceptable? And some fear in that would be good, right? But also, does that take the joy out of a relationship where you have enthusiastic consent and you're still afraid? Something to think about. So, after we finish the Ivy years, we move on to the Brooklyn Bruiser series. So, that wonderful DJ we just met, who is wonderful and sexy, and you really should read about it, he has an older brother named Leo, who we've been watching date some really shitty women for the last 4 years of college, because that's how much time we've spent with these people in the Ivy years. And he just got drafted to the Brooklyn Bruisers. And when he gets there, our good old Leo comes face to face with Georgia, his one true love from when he was a kid, his teenage love, his best friend. She was raped their senior year of high school, and she broke up with him soon after graduation. And he hasn't seen her since, and it's been 6 years since they've seen each other. She's the PR manager for the Brooklyn Bruisers, and she's now faced with the love of her life that she had to leave behind without an explanation because she didn't know how to explain what she was feeling. And she felt like he was only with her because of obligation now, when all he wanted to do was solve all her problems, and he felt useless because of it. And this story is beautiful. This is a second chance romance. This is introducing us to the characters we're going to see for the next few books and reminding us of people that we spent so much time with previously. And I love Leo. I love how he decides to woo back the love of his life, and that all those girls he dated in between, he never wanted to date someone as good as Georgia, so he picked crazy, bitchy women because he didn't want anything to ever replace her in his heart. And it's so good. But one more thing. The coach of this team is Georgia's dad, and he's not happy to see Leo again. So, conflict. Then we have Hardhitter, which is about our team captain, Patrick O'Doul, who has a very interesting thing about him. He doesn't like being touched. And this is kind of a big deal because he needs physical therapy. He needs some help. He needs to get his massages because he's the team enforcer, and he has a lot of aches and pains. And the team, they have this beautiful girl named Ari who is their physical therapist. She's their yogi, she's all these things. And he has a hard time letting someone touch him because of things in his past. Ari is also having some difficult times because her recent ex-boyfriend won't move out of her downstairs and has been threatening her lately because he's in with some bad people. She doesn't want to bring all of that to her relationship with Patrick, but Patrick is like, girl, I'm here for this. And you really want Patrick to be here for this. Then we have Pipe Dreams. This is about Mike Beacon, who is a widower and a single father, but how things went down with his wife were not normal. So he was separated from his wife, and they both had other partners. And then his wife found out she had high stage cancer, and her lover left her. And Mike, they have a daughter together, and he went back to be with his wife for the last year of her life and to support her and be a husband to her. And in the process, he had to leave the love of his life, Lauren. Now, we've seen Lauren. We've seen her around being uber bitchy and has a stick up her butt, and we don't know what to feel about her. However, she was heartbroken by this, and she was able to, because she works for the hockey team as well, she was able to keep her distance from Mike and not have to see him be with his wife and kid again. And now his wife is gone, and he wants Lauren back, and he deserves to be happy. But Lauren isn't ready to trust somebody, especially him, again, because he didn't handle things well. He didn't trust that she would let him be there for his wife and be there for her. They were going to get married when his divorce was final. And so this is another second chance romance, and this one what also gutted me. All these books got me, guys. Does this look like a book that's supposed to be emotionally traumatizing? No, I'm supposed to get sexy abs and, really kinky sex moves. No, all of these books broke my heart. Every single one I've mentioned so far, I have cried in. This isn't a joke, people. Serena Bowen wants to break me. She wants to break my heart. Oh my word. This was so good. Then I read Brooklyn Air by Serena Bowen. This is book 4 in the Brooklyn Bruiser series, which from this point on was just called the Brooklyn series because now we aren't just dealing with the hockey players. This is the owner of the team, Mr. Sexy Nate Kattenberg, I think is how you say his name. And he has a wonderful assistant named Becca. And they've been together for the last 7 years. When he was just a startup in a small office and was hiring an office manager, and he picked Becca. They've been together working side by side. She's been his assistant. She's helped him run the hockey team. She's done all those things. And they've both been secretly in love with each other. Him more so with her than her with him, but she's liked him as well. And this is him finally being pushed over the edge into let's do something about it. And I always really love when a boss and employee relationship dives into the issues that there would really be. So Becca is more hesitant in this than Nate is, but Nate has been so careful for so many years to not make the moves on her because he knows that he's the one with all the power. And I love when the guy isn't oblivious to that, because a lot of times in employee boss romances, the boss will just be like, I don't care that you're my employee. I like you. Who cares about it? And the employee is like, you know how this will make me look, especially when it's a woman who's beautiful and all of a sudden her boss is sleeping with her. Of course, people are going to think that she's getting extra benefits because of it, and not just, Nate's big dick, And I really love that he is conscious of that, and to the point where he's just like, okay, we can either both be miserable the rest of our lives because you're my employee, or we can find a way to make it work. And when Rebecca gets a concussion, when she slips on the ice at the end of Hardhitter, she gets a concussion that isn't going away. Nate steps in to help, and it's finally the straw that broke the millionaire's back. The billionaire's back. Then I don't own this one yet, I read Overnight Sensation, Superfan, and Moonlighter. And I'm not going to talk as in detail about these ones. These ones were 4, 4, and 3.5 stars for me. This is the rest of the series, but I've already spent the last 20 minutes talking about Serena Bowen, and you should really just get that I love her by now. I also read Heartland and Bittersweet by her, which is a separate series about these farmers who live up in they're farming and making wine and doing all these things, and those ones were good too. But I don't want to talk about Serena Bowen anymore. I want to move along to some other things, but you can check my Goodreads for more details on those. But I loved her, and I've read almost all of her books she's written at this point, and I can't wait for the next Brooklyn book to come out, and I just love her. So then I wanted to read some more Melanie Harlow, because I think her books are the perfect amount of non-angsty mixed with sexy, mixed with really just funny rom-coms. And so I read the One and Only series by her, which this one is Only You, Only Him, and Only Love. And so Only You is about Em and Nate, and they are neighbors across the hall. And Nate is a divorce attorney, and Em is an event planner. And they like to watch James Bond movies together. And they're attracted, but they're keeping it casual because they have very different ideas of what love is. And so they know that it'd be really hot if they hooked up. Like, they know it, but they're like, let's not push it because being friends is what's best for us. I love that in a story, not gonna lie. Until one night, Nate gets a surprise dropped at his door, and it's a baby. A one-night stand of his, they had a baby together, and she didn't tell him. And now this woman, I feel so bad, she's having postpartum depression, and she, instead of calling first or talking it out, just drops this baby on his doorstep and says, I'll be back in 2 weeks. Please take care of your daughter. She's yours, I promise, blah, 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 blah. And he needs Em to help him out, and it's adorable. Then we have Only Him, which is about Marin and Dallas. So these three girls are sisters, which is usually how Melanie Harlow does it. And Marin and Dallas were in love when they were young, and they were kind of wild kids, and Dallas got into lots of trouble. And when they are, I think, 18, it's their senior year, he gets sent to military school. And he doesn't let her know that he's going because it would hurt too much. And so they they have a beautiful time together, and then he just leaves and doesn't tell her. And now I think it's 10 years later. I'm not 100% sure with this one. He has a struggle going on in his life. He's getting really horrible headaches and having mini seizures, and they believe he has a brain tumor. And he has decided to go see a specialist that his brother talked him into going to see. And so he needs to drive from Seattle he decides to drive from Seattle to New York. And on the way, he stops in Michigan, which is where Marin lives, and he stops to see her and to apologize, and they end up hitting it off again. And so he decides to spend a few days with her before going to this appointment. And all their feelings come back up again. And it's really good. But then we get to the best one, which is Only Love. And this is about Stella and Ryan. And so we've met Stella already. She is a therapist, and she just gets broken up with. She gets broken up with by her boyfriend of a few years on her birthday when she thought he was going to propose to her. But nope, he's breaking up with her. And they've also just have had, like, they were basically just like friends and roommates because they weren't sleeping together, but they were boyfriend and girlfriend. And she doesn't believe that she's desirable then because she was with this guy for how long and he like hadn't tried to make a move on her. And so she's down in the dumps. And so her grandmother invites her to come and stay because her grandmother is a busybody matchmaker, and she has a new neighbor whose name is Ryan, and he is an ex-Marine who has just gotten divorced, and he's pretty lonely and sad. And her grandma has been feeding him and getting him to do little household projects for her, and she wants these two lonely people to come face to face. And they meet, and there's an instant attraction, but Ryan feels like he's too broken to take on a relationship at this point, and Stella is just like, I'm not meant to be with anybody. But then she meets Ryan, and it's all systems go. And it's amazing. You know me, I love like ex-military men or men still in the military. I really love reading about them, and I just felt his pain. And in this story, we actually meet Mac, Mac is the first hero in the Cloverly series, which I love so much. And I didn't know these series were connected, but Ryan actually works at Cloverly. He's doing like maintenance there and stuff. So we get to see Mac, and he was actually, because we know Mac is an ex-Marine as well, and they actually were deployed together at one point. So that's how they know each other. But that was amazing. And then after I read this series, I found out that she had put out the 4th book in the Cloverly series, and I didn't know it. And so then I got to read Unbreakable, which is about Henry and Sylvia. And so Sylvia is the oldest of 5 sisters, and she has recently got divorced, and her husband, he already has his new mistress pregnant. His new wife is pregnant already. And so she has her 2 kids, and she goes home to Cloverly to stay because she had such a wonderful childhood there. She wants her kids to get to experience it too. And she runs into Henry, who is also recently divorced and not looking for anything. And then they meet each other, and they're like, wow, we should be friends with benefits because we have a great chemistry. And Henry is the wine master at Cloverly. And they have, this is so cute. It's filled with lots of emotions though, because she has 2 kids. She doesn't want to like introduce them to a new partner because their dad's partner is this crazy bitch who doesn't want him to have had kids with someone else. And they're afraid that if their mom finds someone new, then there'll be no parent that's paying attention to them anymore. And it's really heartbreaking and sad, but it's real, guys. Like, that's a really real thing to deal with. Then I read a book called Dirty Daddies by Jade West. And oh boy, this book was very interesting. So this is about a website where girls can find a sugar daddy. I've read one kind of like this before, which was called Sugar Baby. And this is about a girl who answers an ad for a married gay couple, but they're actually bis, but they're so it's a bi couple who is looking for a threesome with a girl, but they're actually looking for a little bit more than that. And they have had previous dalliances before that didn't work out for them. And they're hoping to find someone to be their third, to be their polyamorous partnership. And guys, this book was so good. And so she decides to do this because she's going to get paid a couple $1,000s a month if she will stick this out for 3 months. And the girl's got big dreams, and she needs that money to get her big dreams, and she thinks these guys are pretty hot. but one of them is pretty grumpy and the other one is fun. And she's like, well, I'm fine with the fun one, but you gotta be okay with both of them. And I liked it. I don't care. I gave it 4 stars because it was just, you know, I'm not super big in the DP, so there was a lot of that. But whatever. I shame no kinks at this point, guys. You should know that. But that wasn't my favorite thing I read. Then, however, holy crap, I read Breaking Perfect by Lydia Michaels. This was also a polyamorous story. But this one made me cry a lot. So this is about this couple. Their names are Liberty and Mason. And Liberty has severe OCD. She has been married to Mason for 5 years, I think they've been married. And he has been slowly helping her get better. She was very traumatized by her father abused her and her mother blamed her for it. And he meets her when she's 22 and just this like shell of a person. And they fall in love and get married. But we're starting this story where they've been together for 5 years. And Mason's ex-lover, Sean, comes to speak with him about some things. And Michael and Sean had a really deep relationship for a long time, but Sean couldn't accept that he was gay, even though, or bi or whatever, and was afraid to tell his family about Mason. And so Mason was like, peace out. I'm not sticking around and being your side piece. Like, I want love. And so Sean comes back around and he's very shocked, number one, that Mason is married and married to a woman, and also still has feelings for him, as well as he's starting to get feelings for Liberty. Liberty is also starting to go through kind of a delayed sexual awakening because she was so traumatized as a kid that it's taken a very long time as an adult, and with the tender loving care of her husband and his patience, for her to finally realize that it's not a shameful thing for her to be happy in her relationship. And they finally start getting, you know, a little more creative about certain things, and they end up thinking maybe we want Sean to be a part of our lives forever. And it was really good. It was good. Then I read Hate to Want You by Alicia Rye. This is the first in a, I don't know what the series is, or Forbidden Hearts, it's right there. This is about this couple that they were together when they were teens. They had to break up when they were like 18 and 19, but they meet every year for one night and have all the wonderful sexy times that they want to, and then they say goodbye in the morning, and that's it. And then 1 year ago, the girl didn't show up. But then 4 months later, she's back in town. And there's a whole thing going. They're kind of like a Romeo and Juliet. There's arguing families, and, you know, they're not sure if they should make a go for it. They still have all this chemistry. What's going on? Blah, 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 blah. One person killed. I just didn't care for it. I gave this 3 stars. I thought I was going to like it more because I really like that, you know, the second chance romance, but like enemies to lovers, but our families have a past, but they just were not committed enough to each other. And it was very frustrating to me. And I like a man who will step it up a little bit quicker. In general, I like when the man is more put together. Like, I just do. I'm okay with them having to convince a woman to be with them by their actions. And Nick, he did not show his actions in a good way, and I just got really annoyed with him. I am willing to give the second one in the series a try because I'm interested in those characters, but I just was not a fan of Nick, and this one just wasn't for me. All right, we're getting close. I read This Vicious Cure by Emily Saveda. I had been waiting a long time to read this book. I only gave this 3 stars. The series, I'm not even going to go into all of it because I don't care enough to reiterate. I really like the first one. This is about a pandemic that wipes out most of the world, which also not appropriate reading material right now. Just going to say, that's not Emily's fault. She could not have foreseen when she put this book out in January what was going to happen. But also, there was just so much complexity to this disease and to how they would fight it, mixed with like virtual reality, mixed with like splicing and dice and all these things, and I just couldn't handle it. So I basically sped through the second half and I gave this 3 stars. I almost DNF'd it, except for the fact that I was, well, my friends practically DNF'd it too, but I was reading this with my friend and I wanted to finish it, and we're done. Okay, and then the last few books I read here, we're getting there. I read the rest of the Game On series by Kristen Callahan. So I read The Friend Zone, The Game Plan, and The Hot Shot. And these come after The Hookup, which I really, really loved. I read that in January, February. And The Friend Zone is about Gray and Ivy. Gray is about to sign with Ivy's father for him to be his football agent. And Ivy has been staying abroad. They end up communicating somehow, and they have this long distance texting friendship that just grows and grows and grows until they really care about each other. And then when she comes home, he picks her up at the airport, and they really like each other. And they stay wonderful friends, and just watching this relationship grow is amazing, and I loved it so much. My heart's beating for them. I loved it. Then I read The Game Plan and this is about Ethan and Fiona. Fiona is Ivy's sister, and Ethan is a sweet little Tim Tebow. So he is a virgin, and somehow that gets out, which is really annoying. So everybody knows, and there's literally like a hit out on his virginity, which is stupid. But Ivy isn't sure that she wants a long-term relationship, and Ethan goes about trying to convince her that she should. And he also is like lumbersexual. He's beautiful, or like hipster, got like the man bun, all the tattoos. He's amazing. He has piercings because instead of just having sex, he would get piercings to like have pain instead. I don't know. He doesn't make sense, but he's sexy as hell, and I loved it. Then there was The Hot Shot, and this is about Chess and Finn. Chess, yes, this is a girl. She is a photographer that did a photo shoot of the football team, and she meets Finn at this, and they end up having a really fun friendship. And then Chess's house burns down, and Finn has her come to stay, and he never wants her to leave, and they're adorable. And then the very last book I'm going to talk about is Rafe by Rebecca Weatherspoon. Weatherspoon. And boy, do I wish I hadn't slept on this one. This is an interracial couple. There is a African-American mom of 2 who's just gotten divorced, and she needs a nanny, and she ends up with a Manny. She ends up with Rafe, who is this tattooed dude who's been like a nanny for the last like 7 years. He's worked with 3 different families, and he takes on this woman and her twin daughters, and it's adorable, and they end up having a relationship. There's instant chemistry, and they end up trying to navigate having a relationship while being employers, and it's just sweet. This book is just sweet. There's very little drama. There's a little bit of drama from her ex-husband, but there's very little drama. This is just adorable. This couple getting together and watching it happen was so fun. I just gobbled this up. That was a 5-star read as well. Okay, I got through that just as my light is leaving me. Oh my gosh, guys, this was so much fun. I read 48 books this month. So proud of myself. I'm already have changed my Goodreads goal twice. I've already read 126 books this year. Holy crap. I'm on track to read 600 books. That's bonkers. So thank you so much for watching. I put up new videos 3 to 4 times a week. Make sure you subscribe and click the thumbs up. That really helps me out. Tell me what you thought about these books. If based on any books I read, if you have any suggestions for me, I would love to hear them. Whenever I'm at the store or buying books online, I check through my comments to see what people have suggested. So definitely throw it out there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.